And good evening. Today is October the 1st. Right now it's 7:34, and I'm calling to order this evening's meeting of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission. For the benefit of those who have not participated in the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, our procedures are as follows. The secretary will read the legal notice of the meeting as published in local newspapers. The applicant will be invited to come forward and present the case, explaining to the commission and others present what is being requested of this property. Comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. First, there'll be clarifying questions from the commissioners, and then there'll be an opportunity for clarifying questions from the audience. Next, we ask those who want to support the application to come forward. Second, we'll ask those opposing the application to come forward. As this is a public meeting, we must be recorded. It'll be necessary for speakers to identify themselves by stating their name and address before addressing the commission. The applicant will then be free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearing and the regular meeting, during which the commission will try to reach a decision on each of the applications. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of the commission and has the right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. Decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Planning and Zoning Office at 203-453-8039 after 9 a.m. Seated tonight are the following members of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission. We have Richard Wallace, I'm Rich Meyer, Ray Bauer, Frank DeAndrea, Josh Hirschman, Phil Johnson. We have George Crowell, sort of hiding over there, Reggie Reed, Katie Arbuckle, and Shannon is running our cameras for us tonight. Tonight, our secretary is out, and Ray Bauer has graciously offered to read our notice. So, Ray, would you
Pinch
please?
hitting, yes.
Pinch hitting, yes.
Right.
Take a swing.
Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on October 1st, 2014 at 7:30 at the Nathaniel B. Green Community Center in Monontotuck Room, 32 Church Street, Guilford, for the following purposes. Number one, Karen Rose Hersher, property at 4 Chelwyn Lane, Zone R3, special permit in coastal area management and plan for an accessory apartment in a single-family dwelling, sections 273-19 and 273-91. Bob Klaus, 260 Hart Road, Zone R8, special permit accessory structure over 750 square feet, sections 273-94. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the office of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Town Hall South, 50 Boston Street, Guilford, Connecticut. At this hearing, persons may attend and be heard, and written communications will be received. Dated at Guilford, Connecticut, this 10th day of September, 2014. Richard Meyer, Chairman.
Thank you, Ray.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that. All right, can I get a motion to open a public hearing?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. We are going to table Karen Rose Hersher. I imagine we're going to hear them on the 15th, the next meeting. So let's move forward to Bob Klaus. This is 260 Hart Road, map 106. Oh, yeah, let's make a motion for that. Thank you. Someone make a motion.
I'll move the table item number 1.
Yep.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now, Bob Klaus. Come on down. Just come on over here and tell us what we're doing. Give us an idea.
Name and address for the record.
Bob Claus, 260 Hart Road, Guilford.
Great. And what exactly are you doing?
I want to put a storage barn because I like antique cars.
Do you really?
Yes, I do.
Anything-
5 and 6.
Really?
Yep.
Good for you. All right, so, do we have any drawings or any ideas, or?
I have pictures of, I want to put up a steel building.
Okay,
I have the plans for one of those.
that would be great. Could we see that, please?
This is what I have. I'm planning on similar to this one right here.
It's nice. All the way from Kentucky.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Reggie, did you take a look at was there a location or a map? I mean, it's well within.
It's coming to you. It's coming. He's an interior lot, so he has to abide by 50-foot setback requirements,
Right.
which he's going to do.
Okay.
He's in the R8 zone.
So it's a large
So-
lot, right?
So, yes, it is, and the barn could be up to 20 feet tall.
All right. This one's nowhere near that, is it?
No.
Right.
lot coverage.
So, yeah, he's
Yeah,
got a
he'd be
huge
fine.
giant lot, and he's way set back. So this meets all the zoning requirements? Okay.
It does.
And it does. So do we have any other questions?
How big is it?
30 by 36.
Yep.
There's no professional plan that needs to be submitted, right?
No.
It's request a waiver of the profession. Oh, you did? So we have to act on that too, right?
30 by 36?
30-foot wide, 36 feet.
That's why he's before you, because it's over 750.
Oh, over
square
750, okay, I got it, there you go.
And
Are you
vice chair.
doing foundation or is it
No, slab.
So,
lab on grade?
there's nothing here, this is pretty straightforward.
No, we do need to waive that.
Any other questions?
Do, right?
Yeah.
Any questions?
Not for me.
No, any questions from our audience? Any comments for, any comments against?
You have a question?
Just any objection from neighbors or consent from neighbors?
Closest neighbor to it sent me a letter that he's glad that I'm doing it. He actually told me I should go bigger. No, I can't afford it. I don't need it.
That's great.
Yes, I have that with me.
Do you have that with you? Let's throw it in the record.
Yep. This is when I talked to him, he said to go bigger, and he will. There's another right there.
That's perfect.
That's it.
So, this is wonderful. Great. I'm going to pass that down to Katie.
Sure.
It's in the record there. Okay. Anything else that we got on this? No. So it's pretty straightforward. Get a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second finish
All those in favor, aye. All right, so now we're going to figure it out. But thank you. Excellent. Yes, you are all set. Okay. You want to pass that back to her too? All right, so a couple other little tidbits here. Should we get a motion to open the public hearing? Do we need to open anything, or is this already, it's already open, isn't it?
Yeah, it should be already open, just continued from the last one. This is the second hearing.
Right. And so this is let's talk about the residential units in industrial zones overlay. George, what should we know? Anything new?
You recall that there's ambiguity in the regulations. In one place we say 1 unit per acre, and another place we say 1 unit per lot. So it's confusing what the rules are, and the proposal is to make it 1 unit per acre.
Right. And do we have any other questions or any other input in this point of the public hearing?
I don't think there was any comment on it at the last
No.
meeting.
Is any of the public here to comment on this? Ooh, excellent, I'm glad I asked. What do you got?
The dimensions on this, again, were
Can you say your name?
36.
Your name?
Ken Chain, 291 Northwood Drive, front and back says,
He's talking about the last.
Oh, you're talking about the last one.
We're all
What?
done with that.
Oh, we already moved past that.
public hearing on it.
Yeah,
We did ask if there was
I didn't
anyone.
hear, I didn't hear it you said anyways.
Can we reopen for a comment? Sure. Can I get a motion to
I will
reopen?
move to reopen.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Go.
Okay, well, I want to know the dimensions, 30 by 36, is this a 1-story, 2-story, what's the height? And I didn't hear what the purpose of it, a barn, or what?
His antique cars, he said he was
What
going to,
antique cars does he have at the street?
well, why don't we,
I went in the yard today and there was one under a fabric cover.
so one.
I saw one. I couldn't go to the back because Mr. Foss had a truck there so that nobody could drive in the back.
Okay,
And he did say the height of the barn would be 16 foot.
16 foot. Okay, so it'll be 16 feet high. He has one car today.
They may
Um,
have more. I
well-
just saw one.
That's irrelevant for our
Right.
purposes.
For our purposes, for what we discuss, it's the structure only. What was your other question?
I want to know the dimensions, what was going to be stored.
Right. So, yeah, it's 30 by 36, 16 feet
You
high.
can't store commercial vehicles, can you?
Reggie?
I'm talking,
What are you getting at? Why don't you explain it a little bit better?
backhoes, bulldozers.
They can if they're inside the barn. They can't store them outside.
In a residential area?
What's inside the barn is private to the person that's living on the parcel.
Any other questions? Good?
So,
Okay, thank you. Motion to close, reclose. Second?
Second.
Any, all those in favor? Okay. So back we go to residential and industrial. It's the second hearing date. Do we have any questions from the public on that? No, okay. We're moving right through 'em. Can I get a motion to close that?
So moved.
Oh, wait, no, yeah, that's closing. And then last, can I get a motion to open the adult-oriented
I'll
facilities?
second.
What about the first part of that, TS2?
Oh, okay.
Brian's here to continue to, or try to answer any questions. Your call,
Oh, I know what this is.
yeah, that's the increased coverage.
Right, this is the
Maybe you
Sullivan
should
lot.
remind them what it is, Brian?
Brian McClung. Yeah, we had made a recommendation to clarify our zoning code, and in that recommendation, we asked for an additional 15,000 square feet of coverage, which would, building size today is called out for 25,000.
Yep.
This would effectively make the lot as large as 40,000 square feet is what we were asking for, additional 15.
And that's the building on the lot, or 40,000 square foot?
We were saying when the outdoor display, storage, or sale merchandise is included,
Oh, okay.
the total would not exceed
40,000.
40,000 feet.
Right, so this
The
is-
building itself would not exceed 25,000.
So this is like potentially in the case of a car lot. It would be sales area, but it would be storage area. And so what we're really saying is 40,000 feet for all of it.
Right, right.
Right.
Because we had a phrase in there cumulatively, so we were trying to include the outdoor display area,
Got it.
sales, storage, included in that total number.
Got it.
And we did, there was questions about if the building was less than, let's just say it was 20,000, it would still be, it would allow 20,000 of outdoor displays. So the total number is the 40,000 feet is what we were
Right,
getting
so
to.
we don't care whether it's a combination of 15 and 25, or 20 and 20, or 10 and 30.
Right.
Just so that it's 40
Right.
overall.
But the building itself wouldn't exceed 25. So yes, if it was 10,000 feet, it could be 10 and 30 if that was the case, if the building was that size.
Got it. All right. Any other questions?
Well, I know last time we started, we were talking about how the ambiguity that currently is in our regulations don't necessarily actually can be used to benefit some of the current situations, because it's unclear as to, unlimited outdoor storage right now. It potentially could be read that way. And I know last time I sort of threw this out there at you as well, but I'll ask it sort of again. Is this something that you think is necessary to change our regulations? In the sense that we currently have a regulation, although it's unclear, it may be something that is less restrictive than what you're recommending.
And I think the answer to that is, we were trying to address a pending potential application, and we didn't want to have that application get this far down the pike and then somebody interpret it that it's 25,000 period, when we had other zones where we clearly either added it or excluded it. So we thought there was that ambiguity. So by making it a hard number, a firm number, we felt it took away any of that ambiguity.
Good. Any other questions? Any questions from anyone in the audience? Any comments for or against? Hearing none. Can I get a motion to, oh, we got a letter.
I'll read it in.
Would you read it?
Yeah.
This is great.
Okay, this is from the Guilford Agricultural Society, dated September 30th, 2014, to Guilford Planning and Zoning. Dear Commissioners, Guilford Agricultural Society Inc. supports the text amendment in a TS2 zone for allowing outside display storage and sale of products, especially relative to agriculture, farming businesses. The outdoor storage of these products is critical to their business in order to maintain an adequate stock and availability of items such as fencing, tractor implements, wagons, etc. that do not require indoor protection. The challenging part of farming in New Haven County area, especially along the shoreline, is the lack of agricultural suppliers. Farmers often have to travel an hour or more to purchase farm and farm equipment, related items necessary to keep the operations going. Being that agricultural holds its roots in this town and is expressed as such from each gateway into town, it only makes perfect sense to amend the text for the TS2 zone and allow outside storage. This outside storage is already in place in other areas of town and is well received. Sincerely, John Hammerlund, President of the Guilford Agricultural Society.
That's great. Okay, any other letters? No. Ms. Brockett?
As a farmer in Guilford, about 2 miles away from the site, I would like to lend my support to changing the amount of lot coverage for the building and the outside storage.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Just as a question, I mean, there was a letter brought in from the last time from the New Haven County, so that still applies or
Sure.
got attached to this?
Fresh in all of our minds.
Okay. I think it was brought up when there was discussion about the sublot, so I just want to make sure it was applied to this as well.
Yeah, I read it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. I would just like to make a comment, and that is, this particular zoning amendment is for every parcel in that zone, not just this particular parcel. And it's not just to display farm equipment. It could be something else.
So what other, how big is this zone? Like, where does this begin and end?
TS2 zone. That includes the strip of land that we are somewhat familiar with.
Yep.
And it also includes the recently rezoned parcel where the Sullivan, so-called Sullivan North parcel. There's 35 acres there.
Yep.
That's the extent of TS2.
So potentially, if someone wanted to open a car lot, this is opening, well, the door's already kind of opening. We're really just sort of putting in black and white.
In fact, we might be limiting the car lot here
Right.
rather than making it unlimited.
Yeah.
This is only for this additional floor area only applies for products which are typically displayed, stored, and/or used outside. So, for example, presumably that would mean a shoe store. You know, you couldn't have a 10,000 square feet of outside
But you use
display
your
of
shoes
Well, you could have a
outside.
Car-
auto dealer.
Yeah, cars definitely. Shoes, well, I hadn't thought of that. You know, like underwear, underwear, or, you know what I mean.
Well, hopefully we don't use that outside.
Furniture.
Places.
So there's some discretion there on part of the planning side commission, but, yeah, car dealerships.
To clarify, actually though, in the list of allowed uses in TS2, car dealerships are not listed as an allowed use.
Okay.
Repair facilities are, so like if you go down the road where the Texaco repair is there, you know, they do have a fenced in lot in the back where they keep all their cars that are lined up to be repaired, or a lot of the cars, accidents get towed there and have been damaged.
Right.
So,
And this
I
would
mean,
also,
it really wouldn't apply to a car lot, a sale of a lot.
right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Good. That's good. All right. So do we know everything now? Anything else anyone has? All set? So can I get a motion to close this one up?
So moved.
All those in favor? Can I get a motion to open up the next one, adult-oriented facilities?
It's already open.
Oh, it is open, that's right, okay. So, anything else that we need to add, George? You got a bunch of stuff?
Not a bunch, but let me just sort of bring everybody up to speed on where this are. This is the third draft of this proposed regulation. At the last public hearing on this proposal, you asked to have Chuck review it one more time, the draft that we had prepared at that time. Chuck did review it. We were ready to go at the last public hearing on this, but given the late hour, we decided to continue this again. So we're back with the another revision. This one's dated September 10th. If you have that in front of you. I made the changes that Chuck suggested that I make to the proposed regulation. I modified the definition a little bit with words that he thought made it more clear with regard to what we mean by primarily, and also with regard to the referenced definition of sexually explicit from the Federal Trade Commission. So I made some editorial changes there that were based on Chuck's recommendation. Under the places where this use would be permitted, I deleted TS2 from that list of zones. So the current proposal allows this use in I1, I2, and TS. You recall that the mapping analysis that I did showed that given the 1,000-foot separating distance from a residential zone line, there was no place within the existing TS2 zones where any use would be allowed, and therefore it was confusing, if not otherwise inappropriate, to have it in the TS2 zone, so that's been deleted from this text. Chuck made some suggested wording changes, strengthen the purpose and finding component, which is on the second page of this. He suggested a change with regard to the hours of operation based on some court cases with regard to this type of application. So the hours of operation of such facilities are limited to 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Evidently, there's some law on that subject. And that's basically it in terms of the proposed regulation. Chuck warned us that he can't, I'm reading from his email to me now, he cannot say with certainty that having 2 or 3 sites available in town, which is what we would have based on this proposal in the TS and in the industrial zones, there are 2 or 3 sites where this could be located. He's not totally certain that that would be sufficient to provide reasonable alternative avenues of communication to survive a First Amendment challenge. It goes on to point out that there's no hard and fast or bright line to test how many sites must be available to pass constitutional muster. He's also noted that the 10,000 square foot floor area limit, which this regulation has, may be overly restrictive. He's not aware of any studies specifically related to that limitation, which would justify that limitation, so it's potentially challengeable, that particular aspect of this. And those are his caveats in kind of signing off on all of this. So I think that's where we are. I think we have a pretty reasonable proposal that allows for some places where this type of activity could go. It's very restricted. It can't go anywhere near residential uses, which is what we're concerned about. It does not allow for a concentration of any such uses because there's a 1,500-foot separating distance between similar facilities. So I believe we're on the right track with this, and this is a good thing to move forward with.
Do we need to concern ourselves that in I1, I2, retail establishments are not allowed, or do we need to think
They
about
would
that?
be. This type
makes
of
it
retail would be. Other retail would not be, but this specific use would be allowed if you adopt this amendment.
That'd be great. All right, so council is thinking that this is good right now.
Good enough. Good
So
enough. I would
we're
say
at the
good
cliff
enough.
and ready to
Not
jump off.
100%, but certainly.
Ray, you know more than I
Well,
do.
I mean, I'm for the spirit of this. The thing I'm worried about is getting us into a lawsuit and winding up with something where we really don't want it because it is overly restrictive. What you could see happen, I mean, if there's only 2 or 3 sites in town, are any of those even viable to be rented for a retail establishment? I don't know where they are. I mean, the 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. sounds a little restrictive to me, but if Chuck says that he's researched the law and he's good with that, I'm good with it. the thing I worry about is somebody coming in here and, I wouldn't say on the green or someplace like that, but someplace where we really don't want this, to file an application, it gets rejected, and then they challenge this, and then they win because this is so restrictive, and then it winds up, which is exactly what we don't want to have happen. So that's my only concern, is that it seems a little restrictive to me. I'm for the spirit of it, I'm for the idea of
I
having
think the
this.
normal course would be, if the court did find that your regulation was improper for whatever reason, ask you to redraft it.
Well, not necessarily.
Not necessarily
They could-
order an approval that was in violation, although I guess that
They could order
could happen.
it to be
It could.
granted. Okay.
In my experience, that's pretty unusual.
Well, but it could happen.
Yeah.
So what about severability, where if one of these is found not to be cool, then the other ones still stand?
Well, but that's, I mean, then what should it change to? So let's say they say that 1,000 feet's too restrictive.
Right.
You know, I think if you had some viable locations, I mean, I don't think we're ever going to get one of these. I did check around. Madison hasn't had one. They did have one in Branford. They went broke, and they're no longer there. There's one in Route 80 between East Haven, New Haven. They're more towards New Haven. They've been in business a long time. But other than that, in this area, I've checked with the other towns, they haven't had an application or haven't had it come in because it's just not a viable business. So I'm just worried that by pushing something, we're going to get a lawsuit and have to pay for that.
So you're right, Ray, on regards to the spirit of this is a good thing.
I agree with the spirit.
And the problem, or where I sort of disagree, is that since we don't really have anything right now, something clearly needs to be done. And if you think about the litigation that would go into upsetting this regulation, it probably would be burdensome. And after doing some market analysis of this area, it might not even be worth it for them to. So this could almost act as scaring a potential person in. Not necessarily, but it might. And, if you think about what we've done, we've been talking about this now since January maybe, or even before January. We have made an extensive record of this. I think George has done a great job, including all the reasons why we don't want adult facilities in certain locations and the factors that would negatively impact the population. And that's all included in our record as to our reasoning behind this. And I think that with council's blessing, it would be an effective regulation at this time.
Well, he said he couldn't guarantee it, and he did have some concerns about that, but.
Right. I mean, are you going to guarantee a lot of the things that,
Well, no, I'm just saying, though, that the thing, I don't disagree with having it, but there are groups, PCLU, that on principle sue,
That will-
not
yeah, that'll
because
certainly do
it's
it.
financially
Yeah,
viable,
sure.
but on
Right,
just on
but
principle.
this is way out,
Not
like,
sure
we've
we
really
jump on
given
this one.
consideration, we've really
Yeah, we've
wrestled
spent a lot
with
of
it.
time, and I think that's also part of what will be brought up in the court action. And we have reasonable,
My hope is to just stay out of court, so we don't waste money
Yeah, that is-
litigating
that's the
something
best
like
thing to
this
do.
by
Right, and
having
you're right,
it too
but
restrictive.
the other side of that sword is, if we don't do something and someone chooses to open something today, they could open it on the
Right.
green.
I'm not saying we
We're
shouldn't
behind
do
the eight
anything.
ball if we don't
What I'm
do
just
something.
saying is, I think what we have might be too restrictive and invite trouble. But, I mean, if the majority, I'm not going to fight the majority. If you agree that this is what we should do, I'm not going to
Yeah.
say we shouldn't. But that's just my feeling, that I think we might be getting into something here which we don't intend by making it so restrictive. So I agree with the spirit. I agree we should have something in there. I agree it's something we want to prevent. But I just think by making it this restrictive, we could have some trouble down the line that we're not anticipating. But my opinion.
Right, and I guess that's why we're all sitting here, is because
Yeah.
we have an opinion, and,
Then we go from there.
all right.
Let the vote be what it will be.
Let it be what it'll be. All right. Any other back and forth? No? Anything from the audience for or against? Last chance, any comments? Last chance? All right, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve the revised agenda?
So moved.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so let's talk about Mr. Klaus and his barn. Are there any things,
Probably should get a motion out
Yeah,
first.
yeah,
I'm
sure.
sure. Go ahead.
voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approved a special permit application for Bob Klaus, 260 Hart Road, map 106, lot 14-1A, for an accessory building over 750 square feet, as shown on application dated 9/3/14. Reggie, there's a, we have to have a site plan waiver?
Yes.
Professionally prepared site
Yeah,
plans, probably
should I-
should be another motion.
It'll be a separate motion? Okay.
Yep.
This
Waiver
application...
of professionally.
Yeah, professional. All right, this application is approved based upon the finding that it conforms with the zoning code. The special permit is effective on October 10th and upon filing with the town clerk.
Yep. Any second?
Second.
Those in favor? No, wait, we can't do that. Gotta discuss it. Should we make the motion to waive the site plan before we deliberate on this, or does it matter at all?
Doesn't really matter as long as they're both done.
Yep,
I mean,
okay.
What you want to do in the, you want to be confident that what you're approving, you know what you're approving.
Yep.
And that a professionally prepared site plan isn't
Is it
going to provide
necessary?
information that you don't feel you have enough of already.
All right, so any real questions, or?
Well, I was sort of, there was clearly someone who's against, or I don't know if he's against, interested or worried about what's going in
Right.
there, but I don't think that's, unfortunately, that's not really our business. what
Right,
goes
we
inside.
can't control what they do with it. Ours is just the building, and it was presented as a storage area for automobiles.
I think this is something, we typically waive these professionally prepared site plans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a large lot where
Four-
it's
4 acres or better.
located, isn't near any setback areas, it's not visible from the neighbors of the road, or at least people weren't here complaining about the visibility of the building, so I don't think we should have too much of a problem with that. It wasn't over the septic system or anything, right? I mean, as far as...
No, Dennis
Well
wouldn't allow it.
All right, so I'm fine with that.
And I'll make another motion to waive this professionally prepared site plan.
Second? All those in favor? Yeah, we might as well just do it. That's all those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so, no other questions? Opposed? No, okay. Any other questions about this? This looks pretty straightforward. I can't see anything at all to even question on this. So let's just move it along. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's approved. Congratulations. Enjoy your barn. Good work. All right, subdivision.
Yeah, the amendments, right? Katie,
Yeah, here it
are
is.
these? So which one do I?
Just,
They're both the same, aren't they?
Well, one doesn't really have an
why don't I'll just make a quick, you want to do them both at the same time?
Shouldn't we?
We can, or we could do, I'm saying on the TS2 zone and on the residential units. Why don't we try to do them both at the same time unless anyone has an issue? That the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve an amendment to the zoning code as follows. Number 1, amend section 273-194, TS2, section I, maximum building size by adding the following: for a retail use selling products which are typically displayed, stored, and/or used outside, an additional 15,000 square feet of store area will be allowed when appropriately screened so as to maintain a pleasing appearance of the property. And number 2, to amend section 273-49, I guess residential units in industrial zones, and then the first sentence to read, 1 dwelling unit per acre will be allowed. This amendment is approved based upon a finding that it is in conformance with the Plan of Conservation and Development. These amendments are effective on September 26, 2014.
So the way this is worded, it says an additional 15,000 square feet of store area would be allowed.
I'll second it.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. All right, so is this saying 15,000 feet in addition to a 10,000-foot building, or are
No,
we
in
phrasing
addition
this
to the
right?
25,000, which is the maximum allowed.
Right, what they were saying, they were talking 40,000, so they're saying the building itself can be up to 25.
Right.
And then
But
the
the-
outside could be up to 15.
Right, and
Or
so...
if the building is,
Total
if the
less.
building
You could
is
have
less, then you could have
5 and
more
35,
outside.
any-
Right, but the building can't be any bigger than 25.
Right.
Right, so what I'm saying is, if the building itself were 15, and the way this is worded,
Then
it
you could
says a
have-
maximum of 15 outside, would that be a limit of 30,000? Are we saying what we want to say, is what I'm saying?
Let me see the,
To me, that's what it's saying, is that no matter what the size of your building is, as long as it's...
15,000 is the most outside
Right, the
display
most
you could
outside. So
have.
if you have a 5,000 square foot building, you could still have 15,000 outside. If you have a 25,000
Right.
square foot building, you
I
have
think that's the
15 outside.
intent, right?
No, I thought that he wanted to have 40,000 overall by not naming the size of the building. I mean, he could have, I guess it doesn't make a difference.
No, it does.
It does make,
Because
yeah,
if the building was only 15, for example.
Then you'd be limited to 30 overall.
It was looking for 30, not an additional 15.
all right,
So
then that's
this-
not what this says, because what you want to do is limit the building size to 25, and then limit the total area to 40,000.
40.
So that's not what this says. No, you're right. So it does make a difference, I think.
Yeah, I thought that was the intent.
It was the intent. I mean,
And then, so if you had, but 15 is the most you could have for outside storage, or
Right.
outside display.
If it was only a 20,000
Well,
foot
no,
building,
what
then you
he's
could have
saying,
20,000.
yeah, he's saying that's not true, because if
Okay.
you subtract from the 25,000,
Okay,
you can
right.
add it to the...
Yeah, that's what it says.
Right, so what you really want to say is the building size can be a maximum of 25,000,
Well, then an aggregate between
and
the
then the
building and
aggregate
the lot.
between the two could be 40.
Right, so we don't need to
display.
name the building size, we just need to say the aggregate between the building
Well,
and the
no,
outside.
because you don't want a building bigger than 25,000.
Building-
Right, you don't want the building
40,000
itself to
square
be
foot
40,000.
building
All
with
right, so
no
the building
display
could
area.
be limited to 25, but the aggregate building and lot
Outside
could be
storage
up to
could be
40.
So-
And if you look at that regulation, you actually can put a building up to 50,000 feet. However, no single retail use is greater than 25. So you can have a building up to 50,000 by special permit,
But not all
but
one,
not a
not all
single,
one use.
not a single use. So
By
you
special.
still need the relative single-use building at 25,000 and the aggregate at 40.
So that's really what we mean to say. We need to
That
word
was
this,
the intent, so I was looking.
and this is to get rid of the confusion, so that's, why don't we craft some words real quick?
Well, what I'm concerned about was the advertisement of it, the public notice. Yes. Because,
Was this the notice?
well, I'm not sure, but we've always allowed, when we've noticed something, to take away from it or minimize it, but we've never allowed an expansion of what was advertised.
What was that, was it advertised total, or was this language advertised?
I mean, the way this reads to me is that the building size can be up to 25,000, and the outside can be up to 15,000. It doesn't say that if you're less than 25,000, you can have more outside storage, the way this is written.
Right.
What was
So-
exactly noticed? Wasn't it just?
I don't
I
know,
don't-
George, we have to
Did we,
notice.
did we include the whole text in the
Might not
legal
have
notice?
included the text.
We didn't include the text of the regulation.
So then I think that.
So what did it say?
Yeah.
We're just going to consider
Just
an
said,
amendment?
I think the legal note, well, you read the legal notice a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Uh,
Still have it?
Oh, that wasn't in there, this one. That must have
This
already
was,
been
uh,
read.
Oh, it's a
at
continuation.
a prior time.
You probably said, you know, amend TS2I maximum building size. I'm not sure.
So do
But the-
we,
I think
do
we're
we
better
table
off,
this to the next meeting?
as I say, are we better off kind
Hang
of
on.
crafting exactly what we want?
Yeah, let's see what we noted. I mean, I just,
Notice just-
in all fairness, we need to notice what, if we're reducing what was noticed, that's okay. But if we're expanding what was noticed, then that's a problem.
I think, I mean, to me, while Brian's looking that up, the previous sentence says the maximum building, single retail use 25,000 square feet. Then this amendment says, for retail use selling products which are typically displayed, stored, and or used outside, an additional 15,000 square feet of store area will be allowed.
Right.
And if the sentence ended right there, period,
Right, but we want to say that it could be up to 30,000 feet outside if it's only a 10,000
Right.
foot
I mean,
building.
to me, this means you can only get 15,000 outside. You can't get 30,000 outside.
You can't have 20/20.
Right. You can't have 20/20.
well, does it really say that?
That's
For
what it
retail
says
use,
for me.
Well,
an
what I read.
additional
if that's
store
the intent of what
area
we're trying to do.
will be allowed. An additional 15,000 will be allowed. That's 15 plus 25, clearly.
Oh, so
Okay?
you're saying.
Yeah, it's saying store area.
Right. Well, we really, and then
But it doesn't say
But
up
it
to.
is, but it doesn't say you can reduce the size of the building and increase the outside area above 15.
No, it doesn't really say anything about the outside, how much outside area you're allowed to have.
That's why it's ambiguous.
You're right, you might be right, but we all.
I mean,
read
I
it
think
differently.
the intent was that you, I thought the intent was 15,000 square feet of outside display area was all you were allowed to have.
No.
Well, see, that's, and there's the...
No, that doesn't make sense. No, you're right.
Yeah. So if the intent is to let that float so that the maximum,
Well, if we said, if we put the word "the" in front of if we say when the outside, and this is clearly what was intended, when the outside display area is appropriately screened, does that clarify it?
I don't think so. I
No.
think what you're trying to get at here is the aggregate.
Do you have, I don't know if you have the TS2 language with you. The maximum building size. No building or other structure shall exceed a total floor area of 30,000 square feet, up to 50,000 square feet with a special permit in accordance with 273-118. No single, related, or integrated retail use shall exceed 25,000 square feet cumulatively. The sentence added, for a retail use selling products which are typically displayed, stored, or used outdoors, an additional 15,000 square feet of store area will be allowed when appropriately screened as to maintain a pleasing appearance on the property. And so that's, the store area is the
Yeah,
building
right.
and this outside display.
Yeah, that clearly says that 40,000 is...
So what if it's a 15,000 square foot store that they built? Let's just say it
Right,
is.
they couldn't, according to this, they could not.
They couldn't put
They couldn't
20.
put 20,000 outside. It's up to 50.
It's limited to
Right.
15.
That's the way I read this.
Are you,
That's-
if
that's
you're
not
okay with
I just
that?
think it's more
That's-
flexible to have it.
I don't,
You know,
I
an
don't think you
aggregate.
have to read it that way.
I mean, if the intent is to say that it could be more than 15,000,
Right.
if the size of the building is less than 25 or
Right.
30 or whatever,
That's the intent, yes.
then I think it needs to be reworded.
But what's the total that
Up to
site
40.
can be-
40.
40, it says that in the language.
No, it does not, we
It
don't
says 25.
That's what they're
call
hoping.
out and say 40,000.
Right, but that's
No, I
why we're
understand
here.
that.
We're kind of,
Yeah, that's what the intent,
Do we know what the notice?
I mean, I don't want to be a pain in the neck, but I'm saying if that's what the intent, I think we already are, we can't even agree on what.
right, I think we're doing a disservice to everybody if we
don't know
pass
what
this
the
the way it
notice
is.
Well, you can reword it as long as you don't, change the basic intent.
Well,
Yeah, but the notice...
we are, see, I mean, here's the problem, is if the intent is to set an additional 50,000 square feet for store area outside, and we
No.
say, well, it can be more
No,
than that.
clearly, that's not the intent.
Well, I know that, George, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying that when somebody was to read the
They
public
might have read
notice,
it that way.
they say, well, I don't have a problem, but if it was, they knew that it could go to 25 or 30,000 square feet, maybe somebody would. I mean, I'm not trying to be difficult, I just think you need to notice what you're really
We didn't
intending to
include
do.
the text of this proposed change in the notice.
Do we have the notice?
I don't think we do.
I mean, if the notice
We don't have...
made it clear, we were talking about,
We
it
could,
can go beyond 15,000 square feet if the size of the building reduced, then that's fine, but if there wasn't something in there that led you to, fair reading of it, led you to that conclusion, I think we have a
Well,
problem.
at the end of the day, I believe that we're looking at this because a potential developer might be looking at it for something that might be 40,000 square feet. And if for some reason he chooses to make it a 15,000 square foot building, he may not be happy with getting 30,000 square feet overall. And that's what I would interpret this to say, reading it the way it is. And if we didn't notice that it could be potentially 25 outside and 15 inside, then I could see maybe, there was that one person who was here that had property in back of that and said that it looked out over this. And I don't believe she was a Guilford resident. She was not. She was a North Branford resident. But she expressed concern about the appearance of it from the outside. So whatever notice she read, she thought about the 15,000 square foot outside storage area as the limit, perhaps. I don't know what she
And
thought.
what I'm worried about is we pass this, and then we come in again and there's this
Ambiguity.
ambiguity again, and we string the applicant along further. So if what we're saying is that it can be up to 4, a combination of outdoor and indoor, the building can't exceed 25, and the combination of the two can't exceed 40.
Right.
We ought to say that.
Right,
And
so,
that makes
so,
it clear.
Brian, what serves the best interests of what we're trying to do? Do we want to wait 2 weeks and word it exactly perfectly? Probably. And in order to word it perfectly, we kind of have to
If
notice
we
it.
know what the notice said,
I'm sure the notice said amend 273-194 TS2 maximum building size, period.
That's it?
well, is there, we can look it up.
Are we willing
No, we
to,
don't have a width.
Yeah, but we could Google search it probably on some device.
All right, so I mean, that's all that got published in the newspaper, was that.
I believe so.
are you okay with that?
I'm okay with it if that's all that got published, because it put people on notice that we were doing
Why don't
something.
we,
about it.
we could try to find the newspaper online and look at the legal notice.
Josh is at it right now. Josh is the
And we
master.
could table, why don't you table this and move on, and we can come back to this after we've done a little research.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
Okay.
All right, so let's table this for a few minutes and then get back to it.
Want to take the other one, the 27349? That one while we're...
They have their additions online.
This is residential units on 1 acre, not per one lot. I think that's pretty cut and dried.
Yes.
So did we get a motion? Yeah, well, you made the motion on that.
Right, we already made a motion.
So do you want to separately consider that? or-
Why don't we I'll make a motion that we break these two apart and consider the
Yeah.
27049 one independent.
Who was your second on that?
Well, if I did, I'll resecond.
Okay.
Okay, and if you didn't, someone will too.
If you didn't, I will.
It was Josh who seconded.
Josh,
I will
resecond.
re-second it.
There you go, okay.
Just look at this.
All right, so,
Katie's going to go back to the office and find the legal notice. We don't think that Courier publishes online the back issues, but maybe you'll find it. But she's going to go back and
Okay.
get it.
good luck, Katie.
Okay, then we'll come back to
Run quick. Okay, so we're considering residential units in industrial zones, and we're going to change it from 1 acre per lot to one house per lot to 1 house per acre. Is there anything to discuss here?
No, I think we talked about it last
Yeah.
time, and it made sense. I think most of us were in agreement with it. I don't think we had any input from the public that I recall.
Correct. All right, so let's move forward. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right, so that carries. Okay. So that means, you know what that means, right?
That's right. Someone make a motion.
Somebody make a motion.
I'll make the motion. Is this the whole, is this what it, you want me to read this entire?
Well, I think you can summarize it as, you know,
Oh, it might be better just to
Just
read it all. Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve the amendment to the zoning code as follows. This is adult facility regulations. 1, amend definition as follows. Adult-oriented facilities, a retail store, bar, restaurant, cabaret, nightclub, or theater, including movie theater, where the products sold, entertainment provided, or services rendered are primarily of sexually explicit nature. For the purpose of this type of facility, primarily shall mean 1, at least 33% of the dollar value of all merchandise, services, and entertainment provided at the facility at any time is of sexually explicit nature, or 2, at least 33% of the floor area of the facility, excluding storeroom stock areas, bathrooms, basements, or any portion of business not open to the public, is devoted to sexually explicit products, services, or entertainment. In the case of this facility, this type of facility, sexually explicit content includes depictions or descriptions of 1, sexual references, 2, full or partial nudity, including depictions of uncovered female breasts, aroused or unaroused male or female genitalia, and the unrealistic or overly detailed genitalia. 3, bestiality. 4, sexual acts to or with minors, anyone under the age of 18. 5, sexual acts including but not limited to penetration, intercourse, and or oral sex with or without another avatar or any other object, including overt sexual toys and or sexual aids. Or 6, sexual behavior that has a violent contact. Definition of sexually explicit content taken from Federal Trade Commission publication, Virtual Worlds and Kids Mapping the Risks, December 2009. See also Section 273-22F. Amend Table 2. Amend Table 5, permitted use in non-residential districts by adding a P in line 10, adult-oriented facilities in the I1, I2, and TS districts, and add a note, see also section 273-22F. 3, add a new section 273-22F as follows. 273-22F, adult-oriented facilities proposed. Is that the end of the amendment?
No, it's.
Okay, purpose and finding, okay, purpose and finding. It is found that adult-oriented facilities as defined herein is not properly regulated, will cause adverse impact on adjacent property, lower property values, increase crime, and impede the development of the town in accordance with the plan of conservation and development. Furthermore, it is further found that the concentration of such facilities in one area increases the likelihood of such adverse impacts. Therefore, the development of adult-oriented facilities shall be subject to the following additional standards. No such facility shall be located closer than 1,000 feet to any residence or residential zone district boundary. The 1,000 feet shall be the straight horizontal distance from any portion of a building housing such a facility to any boundary of a residential zone district or to a building housing a residence. This standard shall not preclude the creation of a residential use within the 1,000-foot setback subsequent to the establishment of the adult-oriented facility. No such facility shall be located within 1,500 feet of any existing or approved adult-oriented facility. The 1,500 feet shall be the straight horizontal distance from any portion of a building housing such a use to any part of another building housing such a use. Hours in operation of such facility shall be limited to 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday. The sale of alcohol is prohibited at any adult-oriented facility. No such facility shall have a floor area of greater than 10,000 square feet. Procedure. The establishment of an adult-oriented facility shall be in accordance with Article 9, Site Plan Review. The Commission shall hold a public hearing in consideration and application for an adult-oriented facility.
Thank you, Josh. A lot of reading. So, just a couple little housekeeping ground rules. We have 6 commissioners here tonight, and a tie would mean that this does not carry. So if it's 3-3, this is not approved. And also, in recognition of one of the commissioner's concerns, not approving this doesn't mean that anything other than the commissioner feels that it's too restrictive and may present a risk to the town of a lawsuit. And it's important to remember that that's all that means. It doesn't mean anything but that. So we should keep that in mind.
Was there a second to the motion?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
We got a second?
Second.
All right. So with those ground rules on the table, 3-3 means no. And if you're voting no because you feel that there is some technical reason why, and not endorsing anything that might be in here for any reason. Do we have any other discussion?
I don't, I've already said everything.
We beat this to death. All right, so here we go. Are we ready? All those in favor of approving this as written? 3 opposed. 3, so
I know, abstain.
Okay, so it carries.
Yeah, carries.
Wow. What a man, you are. Good work. All right, so that carried, and we now have adult entertainment regulations on the books.
Well,
When will this go
it's
into
not
effect?
It's not did you include the finding in in your motion and also the effective date of the amendment?
Well, no, I did not include the
Okay.
effective date,
So the effective date will
the
be...
effective date will be September, well, let's make it, October 10th then, I guess?
October, whatever week from this Friday.
I think it's October 10th. Yeah, October 10th.
Okay.
Effective date will be October 10th, 2014, and want to just summarize our findings?
Yeah, well,
We'll just say that I don't know.
you made it in
That it's in conformance
conformance
with the plan of conservation
and
and development.
development.
Oh, that was in conformance
yeah,
with the
that's
plan
good
of
enough.
conservation and
All right, so who seconded that? Phil. You're okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that carries, and it's going to become the rule in 10 days. So good for Guilford. Let's keep our fingers crossed. All right. What else do we have? We have, we have no site plans. Applications to be received. We have some special permits. What's that? Laura Page. Do we need a motion to receive this?
To receive and set a public hearing date for 10/15.
Very good. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, next up is committees. We're going to have a change of players at the planning committee. Mary Jo Kestner is going to step down. She has some other responsibilities she wants to meet in town and has to forward her energies to them. In her place, Russ Campaign will be stepping up to take that chair. So congratulations to Russ. I'm sure his commitment to the town is second to none. Sure. Let's have an update from the committee.
The committee has done most of its work, and this is looking at the propane issue, bulk propane. What we have decided is a more definition that we think is a good one. We also looked at the I-zones to see where we thought anything possibly could go, and other than the areas, sort of north of the Pinchback property, really would not be accessible at this point. So what we decided was that we're going to not recommend anything there. But I do think that we need to put the definition in table 5. So we will work on that at our next meeting next week, bring that to you for consideration. The other thing we haven't really gotten to is should we be doing anything about the 2 existing bulk propane facilities here, and perhaps make it I3 zone or something like that.
Yeah.
We haven't really decided what we should do about that.
Can I ask you a couple of questions? Because
Yes.
I don't know myself. I know that there is one facility which has a railroad spur.
Yes.
And I know, I have heard that there is the opportunity for railroad cars that could contain up to 32,000 gallons of propane to be on that siding and be left there filled indefinitely. And does that count towards their limit of storage?
We've talked about this, we're not certain about that, but we think the railroad spur would probably be something different. We're not sure whether we have authority over that, but that's
Right.
something we have to get going.
So,
But would they be taking the propane or out of that and putting it into
my
trucks?
What I've heard is that it would be stored there and then go into their tank when they're ready to store it. And running a business, you probably want to have the opportunity when the price is down to really buy as much as you can.
Sure.
As long as, you want to pay the demurrage or rental on the rail car.
But it's still going to be viewed as storage then at that point, because...
Well, yeah, and so, what Mr. Kopp said, I had heard is true also, is that as long as it's on the rails, it's under the supervision and control of the federal government, not us. And I don't know how I feel about that because, with that added 65,000 gallons, we're just hovering under 200,000 gallons of propane. All within its own blast zone. It's all, if one goes, they're all going. It's not like they're a half a mile apart. They're within a couple hundred feet of each other, I think. So theoretically, if one were to go, they would all go. And, the scope and scale of 200,000 gallons of propane is that the Apollo missile that went to the moon only had 108,000 gallons of fuel on it. So this would be probably less volatile fuel, but more fuel than what took the Apollo mission to the moon and back. And that gravely concerns me for the safety of the people that live in this town. It wouldn't just be a small little quarter-mile circle or half-mile circle. God forbid it's even that. But, that kind of volume with an extra 65,000 gallons, it would be devastating to this town. And that is our primary goal is to protect and preserve the safety of the people in this town. And I don't know how we're doing with that. So I'm glad that you're working on it. Thank you. You know, those are some questions.
We share that same concern.
Right. You know, and also I had read a document, I think it was from your group, that Guilford now has more propane storage than every other town in Connecticut. And I have to wonder how that happened. How did that come to pass, that this little sleepy little town along the shoreline has become the propane depot to the universe almost? And gravely concerned about that. And so I'm glad that you're working on it. I don't know how it can figure out retroactively if any of it applies. I mean, we now have 200,000 gallons potentially. And you know, is that the right number? You know, should we have that? Should we have 50,000, 100,000? We have 200, and without anything, you know, potentially 200,000 could be nothing. You know, in a couple of months, if we don't bring this to fruition, potentially, we could have 500,000, 700,000. We could have 1 million gallons right now of propane stored here, and we have nothing to say about it. Not a single word, because it's not a rule on our books. We can't say no. So I'm at a loss. I frankly am at a loss for words at this point. So thank you for working on this. As quick as you can, please do something. We have, I skipped over, I want to recommend a liaison for inland wetlands. We currently have Walter Corbier. I'd like to recommend him for another stint over there. I know he loves marching through the swamps. Katie, did you find anything definitively out?
Yes. The legal notice says amend 273-194I TS2 maximum building size and 273-49I residential units in industrial zones.
So we're okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Well, yeah, but I think it's going to take some major wording changes in what's here, because it also says no building or other structure shall exceed a total floor area of 30,000 square feet, up to 50,000 square feet with a special permit. So how does that special permit affect the outdoor display? But it also says no single related or integrated retail use shall exceed 25,000 square feet cumulatively. So that means if you have one use, even with the 15,000 outside, that means you could only have 10,000 inside because you're 25,000 square feet cumulatively.
Well, in the first sentence, it uses the term building.
Right.
So the outside display area would not be part of the building.
Well, but no, it says no use
No use.
on the property.
25,000 is the
Right,
limitation.
that means,
Yeah.
Right.
that's another problem that needs to be addressed when we rewrite this, I think. I mean, because that could limit it to 25,000, period.
Yeah, that's what this amendment's all about, to make.
No, not what Brian's saying. He's saying that you want to be able to have 25,000 square feet inside and up to 15,000 outside for a total of 40.
Right.
That's more than 25,000 square feet for a single retail use.
Right, oh yeah, that's.
So that has to change too in some way.
I'm not sure. That is the change that's proposed, isn't it?
I don't think so, not the way I read it.
And then, okay, the next line, for retail use selling products that are typically displayed, stored, or used outside, an additional 15,000 square feet of store area will be allowed. The store area is, I mean, the intention was to include
I know what you mean.
inside and outside.
I
So
know.
if we could add 40,000 square feet aggregate or something like that,
we can what?
and maybe drop the cumulatively from the phrase.
Well, I'm just saying, we're sort of winging it now, but it's, you're talking about use here, and you're talking about building size someplace else. So you're saying the single retail use, which in this case would be farm equipment, shall not exceed 25,000 square feet, whether it's inside, outside, or both.
That's probably what it means today.
Yeah,
What it
and
says.
that's not what we want it to be.
We want to say you're allowed up to 40,000 square feet for a single use when there's outside display
That's right.
area. But no more
So
than
how you gonna say that?
15,000 square feet, well.
But no more than 25.
And also, what, 25?
No more than,
Oh,
25.
Build up to 40 in aggregate.
Right,
So-
that's the intent.
It's hard to do this sort of on the
On the
fly.
fly, it is.
But-
But why don't we make can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Since the public hearing was already open, and I think it was properly noticed that we were going to do this, is this something we can keep open to the next meeting and come back at the next meeting with the revised
You can just,
wording
you can
and act
table
upon it then?
You can table it, right, that's, I think, what you're suggesting. Just basically table the decision, we'll work on the words to make it mean what we wanted it to mean
Right.
more accurately.
And what we'll do is, we'll work with Brian, you, me, Josh, whoever
Right.
else wants to
Right.
participate, because
Right.
to make sure this comes out. and
Yeah,
says
right.
what
I think we
want.
understand the intent.
Right, and
Right.
because it's already been open at least 2 meetings, we only need 1 more, and it was noticed very broadly, so I think we're covered
Do we
with
even
that
need
public.
to have it at a public hearing?
You're not opening the public hearing yet, you're just tabling a
Just
decision.
tabling it.
Just tabling
So
a
we
decision,
get-
so-
And then,
So that we get the wording right.
Public
Get it out.
hearing.
Okay.
So
Right.
Brian, the public hearing is closed, it's just, I guess, getting the right language.
Yes, exactly.
and the notice was broad enough, I think, to cover that. So-
Right, okay.
We all want to do, we want to get this done,
Get this right.
but we want to get it right so it's not refutable or
Or less
challengeable.
than what you want. I mean,
Right.
you don't want to have a 22,000 square foot building and be limited then.
That's right. And there's still maybe, I mean, the intent was they didn't want a big box there, that's why they limited the single use to 25. So
Right.
I think what you want to say is something like, a single retail use can have up to 25,000 square feet, multiple uses up to 30, and then anything that has normal outdoor storage can add up to an additional 15,000 to either one
Well,
of those.
maybe we ought to look at PV2 where it says if it's farm equipment and tools and stuff, it's not included at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another approach, if we're going to rewrite the language.
Well, I'm just, thinking, if we try to wing it now, I don't think it's gonna come out right, so I'd rather,
The only way that I could see possibly is by saying where it says outside, it's a total of 40,000 square feet, including the maximum 25,000 square foot single use. I think that might be limiting it in other aspects.
I mean, you don't want to limit it.
Part of the thinking was, if in a TS2, we would have allowed up a building up to 50,000 square feet of coverage.
But not for a single use, right?
I understand that.
So-
Okay, no one would exceed 25, but we were trying to get this 15, so it was 40,000 aggregate.
Yeah.
Are you okay with the language as it's right now, as it's read?
Well, I understand it because I helped write it with George, so, but apparently not everybody else
I'm
does.
just thinking that if an application comes in and somebody challenges it, there's still,
Right, and the purpose of this was to make whatever applicant comes along feel comfortable that this is what we want to.
again, even with this change, I still read this, as you can only have 25,000
Well,
square feet
that's how I
for
read it.
single use, inside and outside.
50.
Okay. And
With a special permit.
maybe this isn't right.
But not farm equipment. Right.
But I mean, for example, and maybe this isn't the right place to do this, but in the PV2, it says, no single related integrated retail shall exceed 20,000 square feet cumulatively, except this limitation shall not apply to an area devoted to outdoor display and the sale of agricultural products. For farm markets, no building,
Well,
So I mean,
agricultural products, are they tractors, or is that
Is that
meant to
fencing?
be
Is it,
food and, fertilizer? I don't know.
So, we could try and muck it up and then push it through tonight, but, we really all want to say the same thing, and that might take 2 weeks.
I mean, I don't want to hold it up, but I
Yeah,
just
I don't
think,
wanna
I
hold
want
it
to get it right, because
Yeah,
right now, I think it muddles it up more than it already is, with just adding that piece. I understand what the intent is, so George, we'll work.
Okay, good.
all right, so
On
do
this.
we need to table this motion or no?
Yeah, you need a motion.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Well, do we move to close the public hearing? and
You
then-
already did that.
Then-
that's close, so we
It's
need a
all
motion
closed,
to
so now
table
we
this.
just have to table it for the further discussion.
Motion to table.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All
All
right.
right, so we'll work on this.
We'll work on it. We want to get it done right, Brian. We want to give you what you want. We love you. All right, before we get to the approval of the bills, there's one quick little thing. I was at a meeting on Monday. I took off of work to go enjoy this meeting. This was the presentation of a draft document for the Plan of Conservation and Development. This is a document that is kind of like a roadmap of where we are, where we're going to be, how we're going to get there. And it's kind of matters a lot. It's kind of important. What is a working draft? It's a type of technical report that's a work in progress, a preliminary form of a possible future document. So what is in here is possibly what's going to be the final document. And there are some things that I want to make the other commissioners and the town aware of that's in this document down on page 40 of 58. And it has to do with removing the authority of the Planning and Zoning Commission on certain applications, and instead putting the opportunity to approve that in the hands of town employees who, of course, make their living at the town and are subject to the whims that go on. We don't earn any money. We don't answer to anyone but the people who live in this town. And so I kind of think that it's important that we do not take away the power to decide what goes on from the commission. It's vested in us by the state of Connecticut for a reason. And that's in here on page 40, as well as reducing the number of projects that require special permits. Now, there have been some applications in the last few months that are only being vetted or brought to the people of the town because of a special permit. It's one of the things we use as a commission to get these things out to people who should know about it, to look at things in a special way, to make sure everyone knows what we're doing, and to reduce that, to somehow or another say, wait a minute, special permit, I don't know. When I read that, when I heard that, I actually shivered because I thought, my goodness, why would someone want to take away that? So that's in there. Eliminating site plan requirements for changes not requiring construction. I don't even know what that means. It could mean, I guess, landscaping or something like that. I mean, that's kind of hollow.
For example, an existing building,
right?
If it were to change from like retail to office, there's no actual new construction.
Yeah. But, the voice of the people needs to get heard there too, kind of maybe.
Well, but let me give you an example where you can get creative. What Madison does is with some of the CAM applications, you file it, you have to post notice, and if somebody wants to appeal it, then it goes to the full commission. Otherwise, the town zoning enforcement officer can grant it.
So what kind of notice would there be? Would it be the kind of notice
You have
that,
to put a sign up,
a
and it has
2-acre
to be
lot
published.
somewhere located on the
No, it would
northwest
be-
side of the east side of a river?
You want to put a
Same
deck
notice
on your
that you have
house
right
by you're on the water. You need a CAM for that, because you're in the 100-foot review area. The notice gets published in the paper, that gets put up. A sign has to get put up. If nobody appeals it and town staff wants to approve it, they can. Otherwise, if someone does have a problem, then it goes to the planning and zoning for a hearing. That's an example.
So what happens if a neighbor says, I just didn't see the sign, but I have a real problem
Then
with
that's
this?
their problem. They need to be aware of what's going on around them. It's right next door. I mean, how is it going to be any different? It's the
neighbor
same
didn't come out-
notice.
By the same token,
It's
could
the
there-
same notice that we give for it.
By the same token, could it be rejected
Yeah.
without?
All right, so that one,
So, I
there
mean,
could be
there's-
some reason why you'd want to do that. Authorize planning and zoning staff, not planning and zoning, but staff to approve minor site plan applications. Again, staff are town employees, and they are beholden to their jobs. I mean, that's how they earn their income. Again, we don't, so we're not beholden to anyone except for the people. I would have a problem with that. And then this last one, expediting design review committee. I know a lot of developers, a lot of businessmen, they feel like somehow or another that is delaying or costing additional money. But, that design review committee, I don't always get what they do, but I know that they're the first hurdle. They're the first ones that look at our applications for commercial things. And they make sure that it matches up to the zoning rules. And then they go a little bit further and they make sure that it makes sense, that you're not getting 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag because zoning allows it. And in the end, they're only advisory. They're going to come to us and say, well, we told them this and he said no, and we can still say, all right, you know what? That's great. We're going to give it to him. And that happens sometimes. It happens quite a bit. But to try and force it is kind of like taking away the one thing, not the one thing, but one of the things that makes this town so special. You know, I think a few of you heard me say that I truly love this town, and I do. I go places and I tell people I'm from Guilford, and they say, oh, it's such a beautiful town. And it makes me feel good to live here, and I really want it to continue to look good. So expediting design review committee, you know, I don't know how that got in there. And if something, you know, we need to, I just want to make the other commissioners and the town people too are aware that on page 40 of the proposed draft of the plan for conservation and development is all of this stuff. And I just want you to know it's there. So in case you're interested and you want to have a say, that is one of the things that are going on right now. There's going to be a couple of folks from the people who work so hard on producing this document. And you know, to give credit due where it's due, there are people who worked untold hours sweating this out and making it perfect and making it good. And there's a 99.9% of the things in here are great. They celebrate this town. They talk about all the good things and what could be better. And one of the key things to remember, and it's one of the things we try to think about here in planning and zoning, is that not all development is bad. Development is needed, it's necessary. What we need is development that's in keeping with the character of the town and what the people want. It's not just a rubber stamp saying, oh yeah, it's development, let's do it. Let's develop this, let's develop that. So these things are in place to make sure that the development that comes in makes sense. And these have been in place a while, and I think the town looks pretty good. So I don't know that I necessarily want to change these rules, but it's not my say. There's going to be an opportunity for people to speak, to let their feelings be known. Again, next meeting on the 15th, a couple of representatives from the people who worked on this document will be here, and they'll give us a deeper insight into what it's about. And then there'll be an opportunity for the public to comment on it at some meeting that they're going to have. But you should care. You should know about it. You should have an opinion. You live here. This is your community. Your voice should be heard, and you should know what's going on. And you know, if you guys want to say something too, this is my view. You know, I'm just one of the group, and a lot of times I get it wrong. So if you guys have some input, please feel free.
Let me just say, there's going to be a lot more vetting of this,
Right.
of the draft plan. We just got back on track with writing it and moving to produce the plan because the town appropriated funds after several years of not wanting to do that, to hire a consultant to work on the plan and help prepare the document. We're just getting underway with them. Hopefully they'll also be here next Wednesday, on the 15th, to tell you about what we're doing and what the process will be for moving it forward. As I mentioned, there'll be a lot more opportunity to vet. There'll be public workshops and other types of events along those lines. As of today, there's a new place on the town website that's devoted to drafting the new plan of conservation development, which tells you a little bit about what's happened so far. It references quite a number of documents that have been written so far. You can link to those, and there's a link to an email address where if anybody wants to comment by email right now on anything that's going on or any aspect of the planning process, there's an opportunity to do that. I think that went up on the town's website today. So hopefully people will take advantage of all those opportunities.
Great. Thanks, George. And
Can I
it's,
just add a couple more comments, Rich?
go ahead, sir, please.
Ryan McGlone for the record. And not to try to defend each and every point at this point in time, but we can talk about it. First of all, those are comments and recommendations to be looked at. Not necessarily acted on, but to be looked at. And for example, in the area of expediting design review, one of the critical issues from the other side is they meet once a month compared to P&Z meeting twice. So our recommendation is going to be more, can we get design review starting to meet twice a month, like every other week, so that when they have a recommendation, it can be addressed at the next P&Z instead of potentially losing 4 or 5 or 6 weeks, which does impact developers. Removing P&Z from some of the decisions. I mean, we spent last meeting, for example, on an after-the-fact issue when a gentleman put in a set of steps that he didn't know we should have gotten a permit to begin with. Is that something that could be,
Let me interrupt.
could be approved by the department that
Right,
looks at that?
so the risk is, and I agree with you, you know, a pair of steps down to the beach that probably been there a while, granted, it's a waste of time, but if the cost of making sure that no other applications, which really should be vetted by us, it should be out before the people, if the cost of making sure that those don't make it through the process, I'll spend the hours here. I'd be happy to do it. I'll spend as much time as it takes, because at the end of the day, I take it really seriously what goes on here. And I take it really seriously that what goes on in this town is really what the people want, and not what gets approved somehow. So I agree with you that we do waste some time. I agree with you that looking at some stone steps that affects absolutely nobody for any reason whatsoever and spending hours doing it is a waste of time. I couldn't agree more. But if that's the price that I personally have to pay to make sure that everybody in this town has a voice and a say in what's going on, I'll do that. And not only will I do that once, I'll do that every week, if that's what it takes, because it's important to me. And it should be important to the people in this town that their voices are heard. So I think you're right. I agree with you. Some of the things are silly, but where you draw the line, how you decide which ones are silly and which ones matter, I don't know how you would do that and not bring it here first, because my concern is there could be all kinds of crazy development up and down US Route 1 that we thought we didn't want, but somehow or another it happened. And so I'll take my time. I'll pay my price. I don't know about everybody else.
Well, I appreciate your love of the town. I've been here since 1980, and I too love it. And I think everybody here loves it. And the employees that work in Town Hall South, for example, have the best interest of the town at heart. So your comments are well taken. I think a little bit out of context to a degree without knowing all the background. But we can be happy to talk about that in more detail as we go forward through the process, and we have some additional public hearings on the POCD.
That's great. Thank you so much. I know you had a lot of input in this too, and I also appreciate how much you put into this town. I never want to minimize that. And, you know, as I said, we all know development has to come. We all want development. We all want it to be appropriate, though, and we want it to be something that everybody wants, not just 43 people in this town who want it, but everybody in this town, all 21,000. So, thank you so much. I truly appreciate everything you do. I really do. Any other comments?
Yes. George, what is the timetable besides the presentations of the P&Z? Is there going to be a public hearing in the big room like we had for the last plan?
Before it can be adopted, there has to be a public hearing by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Before that happens, there'll be some public workshops. We haven't actually established a detailed timeline.
Does the Board of Selectmen have to?
Board of Selectmen also have to approve it.
Approve it, yeah, that's what I thought.
They, we've invited them to join us in a joint public hearing. Their initial inclination was they might want to have their own public hearing, but that's kind of up to them. But before it can become officially part of the plan, the Board of Selectmen have to approve it as well.
Good. Good. Anyone else? Perfect. All right. All right, approval of the bills.
One other, while we're on that same general
Go ahead.
topic or that area of planning activity, we do have another planning project, which I've talked about before, which is the Housing for Economic Development Plan. It used to be called Affordable Housing. Now it's called Housing for Economic Development. You recall we got a grant from the state to do the project. The Board of Selectmen are, as we speak, putting together a committee to oversee this, and they would like to have, and we said in our proposal to the state for funding that we would have a representative from Planning and Zoning on this study committee that oversees this project. So the Board of Selectmen are looking for someone to volunteer or express interest in doing this. It'll be a short-term project because it's limited funding. Once we hire a consultant, they'll want to get it done and get paid. So it's going to move forward fairly quickly. I'm anticipating it's going to be about 6 months.
And how many meetings would it be during 6 months?
That's a little hard to say, but yeah, maybe a meeting a month for the 6 months.
6 meetings.
10 or 12 meetings, something like that. First step, the first part of it will be to procure the consultant. Once they are on board, then it'll probably move pretty fast.
So, would anyone like to volunteer for these 6 meetings?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
think Walter said he wanted to.
Well, he's not here to say yes, though. That's the problem.
Or Tom?
What about, do you think Tom would, or?
No, he told me.
No, he didn't want to. Any interest?
I can't do it.
Richard?
Too tired.
Oh, darn. And you know, I'm on
That's up to
3
you.
myself right now.
No one will do it, I'll do it.
You'll do it. Congratulations,
Are we
and thank you so
required?
much. Let's hear it for Josh. Great job. You are definitely
This is going
a
to be
wonderful
very,
person.
this is going to be very interesting.
I'm sure. So maybe Josh can tell us what's going on at each of our meetings and sort of update us.
Excellent.
Thanks, Josh. On behalf of everybody, thank you.
George, why don't you comment about this charrette on the 20th as part of the plan?
Oh, yeah, that's a good, that's also a good thing. The Route 1 West Committee is going to conduct a charrette, so-called charrette, a visioning public workshop on the 20th of October, which is a Monday. It's going to be at 6:30 p.m. downstairs in the big room. We're going to have refreshments to start off the meeting, pizza. And we're going to invite the public to join us in a structured forum that will ask people to envision what they want Route 1 West to be. And we'll have some facilitators facilitating input. It'll be a very positive-oriented session where we ask people to tell us what their dreams are. We're not going to be challenging or questioning the feasibility of this or that, and the idea is to get ideas on the table and get as much participation as possible so that people have a chance to tell us what they want to see happen out there.
That's great. Brian, we were kind of hoping that some business folks would come too. Have we had any feedback from the business community giving us?
We just kind of settled on the invitation, timing and location. Actually, the invitation's targeting late this week or early next week to
Great.
go out.
Perfect.
So I would anticipate still some business people being there.
It would be good to bring all the sides together so that, the residents can hear, what's realistically possible from the business guys, but also for the business guys to hear that, certain development would be welcomed with open arms and people really do want it. So I think it's a real positive thing to bring everyone together. So great work again. That's perfect. All right.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Can we ask people ourselves to come?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Twist their arms.
Do they have to be Guilford residents? Or maybe just interested in possibly being involved in that area?
Sure, it's public,
If
it's going to be a
they had
public
something-
meeting. Well, the one thing we are trying to do, since we're going to try to organize people in small groups, we're trying to get an idea of how many people are actually be there. So we're going to send out an email to everybody who's expressed interest in Route 1 West and other planning and zoning's mailing list, and we're going to invite people to, or ask them to RSVP. That way we know how many pizzas to order, but also, more importantly,
Pepperoni or,
make sure how it's going to be set up, because we're going to try to get people to get into small groups and express their views. So if you know somebody that wants to come, by all means invite them, but have them contact Katie and tell us that they're coming, so we can have a rough idea. And if it turns out we're going to have 300 people, then we're going to have to kind of rethink how this is going to work. It's going to work differently if there's 300 people versus 30 people.
Right. And you know what? Whoever you invite might be the one person who comes up with the one brilliant idea that'll create the overarching plan. So absolutely. It's a real exciting opportunity. I think that this potentially could be the beginning of the golden age of Route 1 West. Okay. Approval of bills. As much as it pains me, we have some bills before us. We have Shore Publishing, $186.22, $186.22. Do I have a motion to pay that second?
Pay the bills.
WB Mason, $11.50, pay that too. Yes? All those in favor? Aye, there you go. Approval of minutes. We have the minutes from the 9/17/14 regular meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review them? Do they look substantially correct? They do. All right, can I have a motion to approve them? All those in favor? All right, and can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? All those in favor? Aye. Good night, everybody.